Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. How you doing, man? Good to see you. God bless you.
Did you check out? Do you approve?
Man, you're more slick than me, man.
Easy now, easy.
I had the same color. I couldn't wait to do it. I was gonna wear the
Really?
same color.
Oh, that would
That'd be awkward, right?
Yeah, we'd be twinning.
Twinning, exactly.
Awesome, cheers, bro.
How you doing, man?
I'm well. How are you? Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, good to see you. Welcome back.
Still figuring this out.
Yeah, I know the way.
Thanks. I'm back to the airport in 12 hours, so
Wow.
yeah, in and out. Dynamic times, brother.
MashaAllah.
Hang on a second, hang on.
All right, okay,
Yeah,
you got me
me.
here.
Okay, salam. Thank you for being here, Sheikh. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Alaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
It's an honor, man. I mean, even years ago, I was following your content on Instagram, and your delivery, the way you made it accessible, is part of the reason why you were a part of my process to take the shahada. So,
I never knew that.
yeah, being able to host you in my house and ask you questions is an honor, man. So thank you.
Bless you, really. The honor is mine.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So the intent for this chat, as someone new to Islam, first of all, what do you reckon? The Gudra, it's all okay?
Man, if I cover your face, this guy's a Bedouin. He's a Bedouin from Abu Dhabi also, not from
I
Dubai.
like it. Very specific. The Bedouins were a warrior class. I'm okay with that. I would like that. That'd be cool. I'd be proud to be a Bedouin. Thank you. So the intent with this chat, I see that there's a lot of content out there for real beginners who've reverted. And I see a lot of content out there that's very advanced, like theoretical debates and really deep diving into the literature. I don't see that much. Perhaps it's there, I just haven't seen it for someone who's, say, 3 to 9 months into their journey as a revert, and they're taking it seriously. So what I like to do, and I've gotten some friends' input, some other reverts. I've got a bunch of questions that are relevant to somebody who, again, is past the beginner phase, if you will, but is in no way ready for the really advanced conversations. And I'd love to just ask a bunch of questions and have a discussion for that, let's say, 6-month revert.
Sure. That's very well. I think a lot of people need such questions because, as you said, there's a lot of reverts. There's even new Muslims who really require answers to some of the questions that, inshallah, as a revert, are going to ask.
Okay, good one. I like it. All right, thank you. So let's crack on. So I've divided the questions into different categories: that of study and then the process of study, which obviously is pretty important in this phase in my journey. Salah, obviously, key pillar in every revert's life. Then a bit of a chat about relationships, and then Islam in the modern world, which is, I think there'll be some tricky questions there, so let's hold that to the end. But just before we started the camera rolling, you mentioned that documentary that Brother Tate, or the questioning, could you call it a documentary? The biased questions from the BBC journalists that we just put to Tate. Well, what were your comments on that? Because I thought they were very relevant.
I watched it yesterday, and it was very hard for me to really watch it because the questions were expired. It was something that Tate he addressed in full detail, and just kept on repeating it. And the journalist, he would answer, and she would just keep on, going back to it. It's as if she was a robot, you know? Like
anything but a journalist.
And yes, exactly. So I really felt it was a waste of time for Tate. It was a waste of time for us watching this. But this shows you that people who are against Andrew Tate are people who have no case.
They're not searching for truth either.
No. It's a matter. I think it's just personal.
Yeah,
it's just personal.
He's triggered them, so they need to come at him with hard-hitting questions. What was very interesting there, as some context, the BBC put forward a list of questions that they said, these are the questions we will be asking Andrew Tate. And they were very balanced questions. Now, of course, we know that BBC is going to do what BBC does. But it was very interesting that those balanced questions that they said they would ask, they never even came close to. As soon as they were sitting in front of him, it was all those loaded, leading questions, a lot of negativity, a lot of insinuating things which logically don't make sense. Absolute liars, unethical liars. Imagine going to someone, we'd like to come into your house and ask you these questions, and as soon as you're there, we'll throw that out and just push all these. Because again, as a trained investigator, there's an open question.
Yes.
There's closed questions. There's leading questions. There's loaded questions. Yes. There is an honest way and an efficient, effective way to ask questions.
Yes.
And then there is trying to push your agenda on someone. I don't think they asked a single professional question. And these are so-called professional journalists. Absolutely. They're just liars. They're unethical propaganda mouthpieces. And I think the people are starting to realize. I think there's less and less trust for Western mainstream media as a result of these blatant games. And I'd love your opinion here, but okay, if you don't like Tate because of things he said on the internet, I get that. But why not ask for his side of the story as well as yours? Why not make it balanced? Why not make it interesting? To your point, it was a waste of time for everybody. It was the same old, same old. They can't help themselves, man.
The irony of it, they're trying to frame him with lying and cheating. They came with lying and cheating.
Oh, wow, good catch.
It's unbelievable, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's wild. Anyway, thankfully we're here in the UAE where I feel there's a lot less of these sort of woke agendas being pushed on people.
Oh, yeah.
Alhamdulillah for that. I really believe that raising a family in the UAE...
Isn't that a special month now?
Oh, of course. And actually, one thing I noticed, without going too deep into this, I noticed there's a growing movement within the LGB community that they don't want to be involved with all the other letters because they see that it's become almost like a...
What do you mean?
So
was it itself?
Yeah, so there are people who would identify as lesbian or bisexual and gay.
Yeah.
They don't want to be involved with the trans and all the pronouns because they see it being pushed in a way that's not healthy. And they see it being pushed in a way that doesn't really help their community either. And so it's even within...
There's division, even within that.
Yeah, which I think is quite promising. It's because it's gone beyond just representing people's rights or differences. It's now a propaganda tool as part of this whole wokeism drive. And even people within that so-called community are starting to say, hey, we don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah, so this is too much for us.
There is hope. But thankfully over here, that's something that...
We're safe from that.
We are indeed. And our children's minds are safe. I think it's very important.
They don't want you and me. We're adults. We're not going to be affected by all this nonsense. It's the kids.
Yeah,
sure. We're after the kids.
Yeah, that's
be very careful.
That's again my interpretation. I don't want to say anything that's not accurate, but if I was Shaitan and I wanted to corrupt the human population, I wouldn't be targeting the adults. I would be targeting those in the schools.
Exactly. That's the next generation.
Yeah.
That's what's going to change the world.
Yeah. That's my dog realizing that he's not allowed to come in the house. All right. Actually, I had this question for later on in the modern day life as a Muslim who's taking his faith seriously. I know that you can have a dog if it has a purpose, and my boy is being trained to be a guard dog. I have a lot of people coming to my house. I need to have, just as a deterrent. I choose to have. Thankfully, Dubai is a very safe city. Is it okay to have him in the house as long as you don't get your saliva on him before you pray, for example? Like, what's the specifics there?
Well, not because I'm your friend and I love you so much, but I'm going to give you the raw answer, the unbiased answer.
Excellent, please.
You know that there are 4 madhab, schools of jurisprudence in Islam, the Sunni methodology or belief. And now the 3 madhab, which is Hanafi, Hanafi, Shafi'i, and Hanbali. All of these 3, they say that it is not allowed to have the dog inside because of the hadith of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. He said that angels will not enter. You know the hadith.
You've come to the Maliki.
Yeah. The Maliki one, they say it is allowed to own a dog for whatever reason.
Okay.
Not a purpose reason. Now the other 3, what do they say? They say you are allowed to own a dog for a very valid reason: guarding, hunting, maybe to control the sheep for the shepherds or anything like that, or the cattle. That's fine. But other than that, it's not allowed.
Interesting. Okay.
The Maliki said it's fine. Now, with that being said, there's a lot of other situations that is linked to that.
Okay.
Now, for example, the Hanbali madhab, they say that if something is impermissible to own, then it's impermissible to buy and sell.
Okay.
See, we fall into now a bit of a problem.
Man, this is tricky.
Yeah, exactly. So, but in any way, I think your dog is a guard dog.
100%.
I can see that.
Everyone can see that. That's the point.
But now the catch is, should he be in the house or outside? This is something that really, I personally, I don't know, and I really have to check. I know because outside it's quite hot. I don't know if he can survive outside.
That's the thing. Yeah. I know with Surah Al Kahf. Yeah. They talked about the dog being inside the cave. So.
Yes, but there's two problems with this. People actually use this as evidence. However, this is ikhbar, meaning that Allah is telling us of a story. That doesn't mean it's permissible.
Yeah, okay.
Also, we have to understand that the nations before us probably had do's and don'ts different than ours. So, for example, in the story of Yusuf, the Prophet Yusuf, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran that his family members, his brothers and his mother and his father prostrated to him at the end. when he saw the dream. So I saw a dream that the sun and the moon and the stars are prostrating to me. So his father said, that's us. And then he said, don't tell your brothers. The story goes on. But today in Islam, can we prostrate to someone? The answer is no.
Of course not.
Exactly. So there are some things that was in previous nations or previous religions that were permissible. It's not permissible.
Okay.
So there's two points to that.
Okay. I think I'm more confused than I was 5 minutes ago.
Oh.
No, I'm only joking. Thank you. And okay, I'll continue to reflect. For me, as long as I keep him out of certain areas of the house, and especially away from the areas where I pray, perhaps that's my happy medium. Because it's hot outside, you know. Like
I know it's hot. Inshallah, I will ask about this. Maybe we can find a solution.
To be continued.
Yeah.
Alright, fantastic. So I'd like to talk a bit about study. And for me, I don't see how you could be a good Muslim as a revert without a lot of study. And so I have quite a conscious approach to study. I try to put in a certain amount of time each evening as part of my sleep hygiene. You know, when you get away from devices, don't get any of that blue light so your body slows down your sleep properly. Yeah, it really helps. The sleep's so much better. And if you don't get much sleep like me, it's essential. So I'll put time into Arabic study and into reading certain books. For the recent reverts, can I talk about the books that have been particularly useful? So I've been blessed with a lot of support from the Ummah when I reverted. And so many people have given me books and given me gifts and given me guidance. So it's incredible. The books that I've found really stand out. Firstly, Al-Quran, Al-Karim.
Beautiful.
And the beautiful thing with this is each word has the English below it. And for me, as someone who spent a lot of time learning languages, I know my learning style. I can't learn sentences. I need to learn each word to then understand what the sentence means. That's going to stick. Yeah. So the approach with this book is incredibly useful for that. So I'd say that was a key.
Highly recommend.
Key start.
Yeah, it's a beautiful copy of the translation or the interpretation of the Quran. Can I point out, just comment something on this book, please?
Please.
A lot of reverts fall into this misconception. They get a transliteration of the Quran. Now, this is impermissible. A lot of the scholars, they said it's impermissible because of the reason that we want to preserve the authenticity of the Quran. So the transliteration is, as you know, it's Latin words, but the pronunciation is Arabic. A lot of reverts say, well, we don't speak Arabic and we want to learn, for example, the surah, maybe Fatiha.
It's not hard to learn the Arabic script. That's a few days of focus.
Thank you very much. Exactly. So it is a couple of days of just practice, and I think you will get it. So that's number one. Number two, like I said, the Quran was revealed in Arabic, and it is the word of Allah. This is very important that people know this. So meaning that Allah spoke, and He gave that speech to Gabriel, and it was revealed to Muhammad. So it is not a creation. This is not created. This is the word, meaning the words in it. It is the literal word of Allah. When Allah speaks, you mention it as it is.
Okay.
Don't try to change the language of it. But what we have today here is not the translation of the Quran. We have to be specific, we have the interpretation of the Quran in English. See where the difference is? If we say translation of the Quran, meaning you're translating word by word, this is not it. We're actually just interpreting the ayat.
Interesting. So the real answer is to get Arabic to the level where you can understand the Quran.
You gotta do that.
That's a lot of work, brother. And I've studied Arabic for 7 years. I mean, got to be
really
rusty. No, not really. I'm getting it.
لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah will not burden you with things that you cannot handle. Meaning that if it's hard for you, some people they might find it hard for them to learn a bit of the Quran to establish the prayer, which is obligatory. Now, a man came to the Prophet, والسلام, peace and blessings be upon him, and he did say that. He said, I don't know the Quran, but I want to pray. What should I do? He said, say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar in your movement of prayers, but pray.
Nice.
So we have some discounts.
Yeah, nice. I like that. So some first gear before you get into fifth gear. I like
but
that.
also, like you said, you got to learn a bit of Arabic.
100%. And also, I mean, what a beautifully complex language too. I mean, I think learning Arabic when you understand the weight of the language and the depth of it, it's very satisfying. It's difficult, but it's satisfying. Right? Nothing worthwhile in life comes easy. I think that applies to Arabic. Is it poor form to have other books sitting on the Quran, or is this okay?
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not the Quran itself, but yes.
Okay,
it should be.
We don't want the haters coming up. Okay, so another fantastic book given to me. Again, these are all gifts by my dear brother, Fortress of the Muslim.
Yes.
I have a question about this. For those who aren't familiar with it, basically there are invocations for pretty much every situation in life. From entering the mosque to entering someone's house to even trying on new clothes. There's so much here. I find it very enjoyable to read and understand. But to memorize all of that and to use all of that on a daily basis, is that expected? Because that's a lot. Like please.
If you notice how small this is and how big this is, the reason why they made it small, even the Arabic version, is that small, because it's a pocket thing.
Okay.
You carry it around, so you don't have to memorize it.
Okay, nice.
So no, you don't have to memorize it, but keep it with you. Sometimes you repeat some of them, you memorize it.
Okay.
Naturally, say. But yeah, it's just a reference.
All right, fantastic. And I like that it's portable. This goes with me.
Exactly. And by the way, you can have it on your phone applications.
Oh, really?
There's an application for this.
Oh, that's
so that's also more convenient.
Okay. I like that. Oh, fantastic. Thank you.
And like you said, it's a very important book that I think every Muslim, revert or old Muslim, should just have it. Yeah. Because like you said, it has a lot of things in life, situations that you want to supplicate or do dhikr or remembrance of Allah.
Exactly. And I find from that it's easy to understand the intent behind, again, the niyyah. Like if you're entering someone's house, you set a certain intent.
Yeah.
So this is the best way to understand the best niyyah to approach various situations in life. I really find it useful. Another book, my goodness, I've gotten used to this one. This is from you and the Islamic information. So for the reverts who want to pray very accurately, which I've set out to do, it has each step of salah from Surah Al-Fatiha to all the details. And what I do is, and I recommend this, I take this to the masjid a little early before prayer. I'll sit and read for a bit. I'll pray, then afterwards I'll sit and read for a bit. Because for me, and I'm sure it's like this with a lot of reverts, life is so busy. As soon as his phone's around, what are you going to choose? Study or the phone? So I leave the phone at home, I go to the masjid with this book, and that's how I'm at, putting aside time regularly to learn how to pray properly. So hugely useful book, strongly recommended. Two more. I found this to be super useful. Thank you. The complete 40 hadith. And again, from very well-read brothers that recommended this. I travel with this.
Personal favorite.
Oh, really?
Okay. I love it.
Okay, fantastic. And this is something I find you could read again and again. And the commentary in here as well makes it very accessible. So I really have found this useful.
Many scholars, contemporary scholars, actually explained or commented on these 40 hadiths because it covers all the aspects of Islam. Imam al-Nawawi, one of the great prominent scholars, he compiled this book based on, and I just told you this previously, that he compiled this hadith 42 basically, because of the hadith of the Prophet. He said, whoever learns, memorizes, or narrates and memorizes 40 hadiths from me, then he will enter Jannah with the prophets and the pious people. So Imam al-Nawawi compiled this, but it's an unauthentic hadith, subhanAllah. But we got the benefit of it.
We had 40.
Exactly. So, alhamdulillah.
Nice, thank you. Appreciate the context. And for me, studying all the different pillars of belief, the one that I was most confused about was that of Akhirah, Jahannam, and
hereafter, yes.
The hereafter.
Yes.
And so a very close brother of mine gave me this book and said, please read this. And I found it super useful. And my thinking is, alhamdulillah, it wasn't always the case, but in my life now, my day-to-day reality is optimized in every way. I feel I have the beautiful, healthy family, I have brothers, I have faith, I have health, I have meaningful work, the material, thankfully everything's covered. So my thinking was, what's better than what I already have, alhamdulillah? But reading this book, I understood the contrast between the joys of Jannah, the Jannah and the terrors of Jahannam.
Yes.
This made that real, and I actually find it quite useful. If the goal is to keep ourselves accountable and keep ourselves on that Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path, understanding Akhirah, understanding Jahannam properly, I found it to be quite a useful mental exercise with which to really think, hang on, I want to make the right decisions every day. So the brother who told me to read this, I appreciate that. I found it very useful. Paradise and Hell, Dr. Umar Al-Ashqar. I found that very useful as well.
Mashallah, it's a very, very good. I think a lot of Muslims need to be connected with that. I mean, Islam is not just a pragmatic kind of lifestyle. What's in it for you in this life, but actually you have to think of the Akhirah. You have to think of the hereafter. You have to think that you want to win paradise. In the end, if you think about it, everything that you gain in this life, whether it is positive or negative, they're perishable. Everything is perishable.
100%. It's all going to dust one day.
And because of that, your joy and your connection to it is also perishable. And that's why you're going to get money, but you're never satisfied. You always have that missing thing inside of you. You just want more, and you want more. And even if you get more, you probably just get bored of it. Like, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, the diminishing returns are real. After a certain point, the buzz is lost.
Because it's a perishable thing. Not like the akhirah. Akhirah is all everlasting. So, and a lot of people try to make sense, not make sense, but try to imagine what exactly is heaven and hell. The Prophet ﷺ told us that it is something that your mind cannot comprehend. Because you've never seen it, you've never experienced it. All we know is that it is something that Allah promised us. And it is something that is complete happiness and positivity, that it is nothing like what you have seen today. Maybe the names are the same, like you'll find rivers of alcohol, of lebanon, of milk, of all these beautiful things that we might think, okay, I can understand what this means. No, you don't. They're just names, but in reality, you're not going to really understand exactly what it is. Yeah, we would just want to reach there.
Yeah, exactly. Inshallah. Thank you. Awesome. So they're the books I found really useful. Now, I've been very privileged in that I can walk to the mosque. You know, and I mean, even sitting with you is I'm very fortunate. I did have this guidance, so thank you. And I've had a lot of other brothers who have a lot of wisdom and a lot of just hours spent learning about Islam and sharing their guidance. I often think of my brother Andrew, and I often pray for him and his brother and their well-being. For someone like him who doesn't have the opportunity to go to a mosque, who doesn't have the opportunity to have good face-to-face chats really with brothers who can guide him with Islam, what would your advice be? I mean, for me it's easy. I'm on easy mode. Learning to be a good Muslim is easy mode. With all the support I've got, mosque across the road. For someone who doesn't have such fortune, and again we see Andrew in such a position where he's not able to even go to a mosque, what would your guidance be for that?
Alhamdulillah, Allah Azza wa Jal, by the mercy of Allah, that He made worshipping Him and getting connected to Him is easy. No doubt, going to a mosque is a blessing, and it increases your relationship and your connection with Allah. But if that is not happening, then Allah made it so easy for us that we supplicate and we worship and we get closer to Him wherever we are. And as you know, if you can't pray in the mosque, you can pray at home. If your limbs are chopped off and you can't pray, you can pray with just nodding your head. If you can't do ablution, pray without ablution. If it's not possible. If you don't know where the Qibla is, pray without the Qibla. So Allah is not stopping you from getting connected to Him. But subhanAllah, just like you mentioned earlier, if the intention is right, you're going to have an honest, sincere relationship with Allah. And so Andrew Tate should really, I think in hard times like these, I honestly and I truly believe that getting connected to Allah is one of the key things that are going to make him victorious.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And also make him stronger and stronger, because I know now he is in a very tough situation. He's a tough guy, he's a warrior, he's a fighter. But also at the same time, getting connected and seeking the support and blessings from Allah is actually where things are going to turn.
And I can definitely see that, and I can see how, I mean, a lot of people say they find Islam in the hardest days of their lives. I found Islam in the best days of my life, but I can see clearly, if you were struggling, prayer, connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that would give you a peace, an inner peace that even if the outside world is chaotic, you could find that in stillness. And I know that Andrew is praying every day. So I don't believe that his Arabic is perfect, but I know that he's trying. I know that he took the Quran, he's reading the Quran really seriously, which is great. And inshallah he'll be in the UAE or in the Arab world soon, so he can really. I think it's absolutely disgusting the way the man can't even practice his faith properly the way he'd like to, because of all this absolute illogical nonsense that's been leveled at him. So inshallah he'll be here soon, and I hope to see him benefit from the blessings I've had, which is being able to speak to people like you, having the masjid close by, having lots of brothers. I think it's a lot easier to be learning and to be following that path into being a good Muslim when you're in this part of the world, right? And so I really do pray for Andrew to get over this.
I wanted to ask you this. I mean, you're a very close friend of Andrew. Does he prioritize his religion, or because a lot of when we look at him on social media, on Twitter, people might get the wrong impression, as in he is just a man of making money and getting cars, and that's it. And some people accuse him of using religion for clout or for attention.
Yeah, I'd love to address that. First of all, when you convert to Islam, the idea that it's somehow clout, there's a lot of negativity that comes with it too. There's very clear studies about how Muslims are negatively perceived. So there's sort of this idea that all of a sudden you convert and everything's rosy. Like, it's not real. And we see a lot of fairly famous reverts after reverting have gone through some real hardship. And we see, that's why I'm going to take, right? So what I'd say with both the Tate brothers, there is a persona that is very different to who they are day to day. Even Tristan's a great example. You look at Tristan, 110 kilos, lean, physical. He is the most...
He's 110?
Yeah. Well, he's massive. When it comes to history, when it comes to literature, he is incredibly well read. He can quote specifics from all the major battles over, pretty much the last 500 years. I saw him have an hour-long discussion about the various battles in India over the last 3 centuries with an Indian chap. And the Indian guy was like, who is this fella? He can do that with pretty much every country and every major battle around the world. You'd never know that from his social media.
Yeah,
but spending as much time as I have around the Tate brothers, you see it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of depth to Andrew that you do not see in his public persona. He's always, even from when I met him in 2018, he's always been a truth seeker. He's always been the big questions. We discussed them, the meaning of life, how to be a good human, what it's all about, is there a God? It's very important to him to understand truth. And that's why he ended up with Islam. I think anyone who objectively looks at the state of the world and looks at the different religions and both the way they enable you to perceive the human experience, the way they enable you to know you're living on the straight path, you're going to find Islam.
Yeah.
With respect to all the other religions, nothing comes close to having the structure, the depth, the guidance, the specifics as to how you live your life than Islam. So the reason why Andrew found Islam is because he has that deep-seated need for truth and a relationship with a higher power. He's very deep, he's very philosophical, he's a real thinker. The idea that he somehow reverted for clout is nonsense. He has enough clout. He is the most Googled man in the world. He doesn't need clout. Let's be real. So and also, that's another thing. To people criticizing his faith, that's haram, right? You've got no idea. You've got no idea about his niyyah. You've got no idea about his practicing, about the conversations that we've even had in this house again and again about Islam, even in this very house. So to anyone who would question Andrew, shame on you. One, faith is a deeply personal thing. How dare you question that? And two, if you'd actually spent time around Andrew, the real Andrew, not the social media persona, you'd know it was inevitable you'd find Islam anyway.
I've had the chance to sit with him, and you're absolutely right. He's a very respectable person, very respectful person,
100%.
and he's very observant. I like the way he looks at things, and he really catches things.
Yeah, very perspicacious is the word he uses. He's very detail-oriented and very aware of everything. So, yeah, anyone who wants to throw shade at Andrew Tate, sure, object to some of the things that were said on the internet years ago, but how dare you question his faith? That's just disgusting. And I actually did an interview with a documentary that's focused just on questioning a man's faith. The journalists nowadays, they have zero ethics, man. Nothing is sacred. Honestly, it's disgusting.
They're the clubs.
Yeah, 100%. That's it. The people accusing Tate of reverting for clout, they're the clout seekers. I like that. The most Googled man in the world doesn't revert for clout anyway. It's not logical. He has enough clout. And this documentary was trying to insinuate that he reverted to Islam so that he could make business contacts in the Middle East. I'm sorry. The Tate brand is strong enough for business. Islam has nothing to do with business for Andrew Tate. And I think it's disgusting, unfounded assumptions by those who would say otherwise. So thanks for raising that. I feel a bit passionate about that, as you can see. That's why I've gone so public, man. I'm sick. I actually know the Tates. I've been around them more than anyone else outside their family in the last 5 years. Seeing this nonsense, seeing this hate thrown at them, the social media persona, they're entertainers. It's different to who they are as people. It's different how they actually interact. I've been around the parties and the girls and the yachts and the jets. I've seen the reality. Nothing that is being represented by all these so-called media or journalist types reflects on the reality of how the Tates live their life. And then the truth will win out, inshallah. I look forward to that day, man. It's going to be a beautiful day. Hopefully not too long away. Anyway, sorry, I went off on a bit of tangent there, but I'm very passionate about this because I've seen it. I know it, So
and it's good that we say it again. We've said it before, but we're saying it to emphasize that. People know that. This is unacceptable
true.
to accuse someone's intention.
Yeah, exactly. Disgusting. Thank you, Sheikh. Appreciate that. Okay, so, right. When you see, obviously, I think as a revert, the first focus is that of salah.
Yes.
What would you say the other key pillars are to focus on? Both pillars of Islam and pillars of belief that you see reverts often don't give enough time and focus to.
The first thing, that's a very important question. I see a lot of reverts focus on salah, which is important. Nobody disputes that. But before that, belief. The shahada itself. Yes, you've said it, but how are you practicing it in your heart, in your actions? And what I mean by that, the 6 pillars of belief. The 6 pillars of belief are different than the 5 pillars of Islam.
Do you want to test me on those?
I think that's a good point. So you know that?
I do.
I didn't want to put you on the spot, but you know.
Oh, let's see. I mean, it's been a while since I've read about them. So, 5 pillars of Islam, we have shahada.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's salah.
Yes.
There. Zom, so fasting.
Yes.
Hajj, for those who can.
Yes.
And zakat.
Zakat. Yes.
Giving specifically to the community. You should give to that which is supposed to.
To be specific, zakat is number 3.
Okay. Oh, we're doing in order as well. Okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
I'll let you pass on this one.
Arkan al-Iman,
Yeah.
pillars of Iman. So we have, this won't be in order, but I should get there.
Yeah.
So there's the angels, the books,
Yes.
the messengers.
Yes.
Come on. The Qadr Allah,
Yes.
belief in Akhirah.
Yes.
Then there's one more. It's not, is it Tawheed?
You're there.
So the oneness
Off.
of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Believing in Allah.
Believing in Allah.
Basically.
Did I pass sort of?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
excellent.
definitely.
Alhamdulillah.
Perfected, but yes.
Exactly.
It's believing in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, the hereafter, and the qadar, which is the decree of Allah, whether it's good or bad.
And now that I've finished, now that I've devoted some time to reading about Akhirah,
Yes.
I now want to read more about Qadr Allah, because I find that to be incredibly interesting.
Oh, that is something so deep.
Mm.
But be careful, huh?
Okay.
It can be confusing at
I
times.
believe it. But that's an age-old question across all cultures. Is what we're going through in life predestined, or is it chance? Like it's.
There you go. These
some-
philosophical.
So I want to deep dive into the Islamic view of these these quintessential questions we see across all cultures and throughout all of time as well. Very interesting.
When we studied qadar, the Shaykh said something beautiful that I think you have to always put it there when you are studying or reading about qadar, the decree of Allah. He said that qadar is one of the traits of Allah. That His qadar, His will, that things take place in our lives, it is from His will, from Allah's will. And he said, before you delve into that, know that Allah, nothing is like Him. He's the creator, nothing is like the creator. So لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. Nothing is like Allah, and He's all-seeing, all-knowing. Once you know that, then qadar would be easy to understand. Why? Because sometimes we want to make sense of qadar in our limited minds. And this will make you stop at a dead end.
I see what you mean. So it's beyond comprehension in a way.
To some extent, it is.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so we have to understand this when it comes to qadar. That's why, subhanAllah, the scholars and the companions before that, they didn't like talking about qadar too much. Because what are you going to say? There is just as much knowledge as we have. There's some things we don't know.
Okay.
We just don't know. We don't know how to answer. We don't have answers to it.
Okay. So look into it, but don't get too caught up on it.
Yeah, know the general kind of understanding of it, and then just go with that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's a good intent to approach it. Thank you very much. Okay, so I've read about the life of the Prophet. That was another book I should have here. The life of the Prophet. That's what really got me thinking. Wow, this is something. That's a role model. That's someone to model yourself after. I've also read about Khalid ibn al-Walid.
Khalid ibn Walid.
Walid,
Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate that. The Aussie accent coming out. And battle back then was serious. Like you weren't sitting behind a gun of some sort. You're face to face with the enemy. So reading about the sheer amount of combat and of both the strategic victories, but also being on the ground. How often nowadays do you see leaders on the ground, in combat? They just send, the minions off to do it. So huge respect. Yeah, exactly. Huge respect for that in another country. Yeah. So some other specifically masculine role models that reverts would do well to read about. Those who are seeking to model their form of masculinity after very strong masculine figures throughout Islamic history.
Before that, I want to ask you, because it's such a general term. What do you mean by masculine?
Okay, for me, I think if you look at masculinity, it comes down to providing and protecting. I think that's the old school values throughout history and throughout all species that you see the male sort of alpha masculine types, you know, the leaders in the tribe.
Even in the animals.
Doing it, exactly, in the wolves and so on. So in order to provide and protect in the modern day as a man, I mean, first of all, you need a certain amount of stoicism, you need emotional control, you need discipline, you need to be good with setting goals, achieving them, all of this conquest-based stuff. Now, obviously, we don't go to combat anymore, you know, generally speaking, as a species. Our combat, in order to provide and protect for our family, is business, is success, is finding work that's meaningful and monetizing that. So I think it all comes down to providing and protecting, and it just depends where you are in life as to what that is. And I think traditional values, traditional gender roles are extremely important for the cohesiveness both of a family, or a relationship, a man and a woman, a family and a society. And I think that's where we see the West falling over, is masculinity has been labelled as a bad thing. Even femininity has been labelled as a bad thing. They want us all to be these sort of 50-50 robots all doing each other. Like it's a mess. So I'd say for me, masculinity is very simple. It's the old school values that you see embodied through traditional responsibilities of the man of providing and protecting. And
it's a good way of thinking of it. And to be honest, after the Prophet ﷺ as a role model, we look at the other prophets. Okay. They are great role models to masculinity, to what you have just explained, to being responsible, being protective, being somebody who stands up there in front of evil, in front of harm, in front of danger, and really sacrificing yourself basically for others, the safety of the community. If this is masculinity, then Moses is a role model.
Yeah.
How he fought for his people, how he protected them, how he helped the two ladies at the well. There's a lot of stories about Moses. Yusuf was also a very beautiful masculine role. How he was thrown in jail because of a frame, because he was accused of adultery. And maybe a person can come to mind.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. It's not the first time that approach has been used to cancel someone, to shut someone up.
Yeah, see, there you go. The prophets before us were in that situation. Then it comes down to the companions. You mentioned Khalid ibn al-Walid. Abu Bakr, the second Khalifa, was a great masculine role. When the Prophet ﷺ died, and that was a great calamity, people couldn't handle the shock. Umar said, when he first died, he said, because he loved him so much, he said, anybody who says the Prophet died, I'm going to hit his head, hit him with a sword. Abu Bakr was different, he was wise. He said, Allah is alive, and the Prophet died. Whoever worships the Prophet, then he is wrong, and we worship Allah. And he put his emotions aside, and he took order, he took charge after the Prophet. Great responsibility. Who's going to come and be the same caliber of the Prophet ﷺ, leaving this ummah of Muslims to handle and to lead? That's a very masculine thing to do.
Especially in times of uncertainty.
Uncertainty. After the Prophet died, what happened to the Arabs and the tribes around in the Arabian Peninsula? All of them, not all of them, but many of them, they left Islam. They said the Prophet died, khalas, no more Islam. He asked them for zakat. He said, no more zakat. The Prophet used to get our zakat. We're not going to pay you zakat. You're not the Prophet. What did he do? He waged war against all of them. That's masculinity. To preserve the authenticity, the identity of Islam. To preserve Islam.
So yeah, they're fighting for what you believe in.
He fought for so many, and this is masculinity. When he first became Khalifa, he used to milk cow for his neighbors and sheep. That was something he gestured for his neighbors. As soon as he became Khalifa, the first morning, or when he became Khalifa, old lady said, now he's too busy, he's the president basically. He's not going to be able to come and help us with the cattle. The first morning he came and he started helping everyone around.
Beautiful.
So responsibilities, as you said, all of them were like that. The companions. Umar was a great responsible Khalifa. He used to say that, I am scared that maybe in the day of judgment, a sheep would come and complain about me to Allah, that I was not fed. when he was president. So that great responsibility of Umar also was something unmatched. And really, if you look at all the stories of the Sahaba, you'll find what you have explained as masculinity, you're going to find it top notch right there.
I like that. So you don't need to necessarily seek out masculine figures. Pretty much everyone embodies masculine.
You apply Islam, you're going to naturally, automatically become masculine. You apply Islam, you're going to naturally become a feminine if you are, of course, a female. Islam encourages that and actually embeds that in you, in your appearance even. That's why it tells you, grow a beard.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't wear silk, don't wear gold. Be masculine.
Platinum's okay though, right? Yeah, okay. Okay. And I think that's why nowadays, especially in the West, any man who believes in traditional gender roles and wants to be that old school, stoic, provider, protector, carer, leader in his community, I think without Islam, it's going to be very difficult. I really do. Because how else do you stand up to the assault on the traditional ways? You see it pushed in so many different directions.
Islam is the solution, just like Tate said before. Islam is the solution. And sorry to say, but we don't need red pills. We don't need feminism. We don't need all these things came when they let go of Islam to solve a problem. There was a problem of women being oppressed. There was a problem that males are losing their responsibility and authority in society. So they said, okay, let's bring up a solution. What's the solution? Red pill. What's the solution? Feminism. What's the solution? Liberalism, wokeism, whatever it is. But we say, why do you need all that? You have a very good, beautiful lifestyle that solves all these issues.
Very clear guidance, very specific guidance.
Absolutely. Yes, it's hard sometimes, but it's hard because you have changed your lifestyle into something unnatural. Now when we present you something that is natural, something that will solve the solution, you say, oh, it's too tough, it's too restrictive. Maybe you want to be prevailing and happy, yes, you have to sacrifice a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that. And that's the thing, I think things like red pill, they'll call out what's wrong, but they don't have any solutions. The green pill, however, Islam, it has the clear guidance, it has the solutions, but as to your point, that involves some sacrifice, that involves less gratification than most people are buying into. It involves a heightened degree of self-control.
The red pill, in itself, it seeks tangible things, it seeks worldly things. And when you do that, you focus on outcomes. This is a problem. Why? Because we know in our life, the decree of Allah is by Allah. Our outcome is by Allah, not by us. This is Islam. So what Islam tells you is don't look at the outcome or don't focus too much on the outcome, focus on today, now. Focus on what you can do, but don't worry about the outcome. This is a very different take and approach to life. Why? Because when you do that, whatever the outcome is, but do your best. So live today, don't worry too much about tomorrow, it will happen. قدر الله ما شاء فعل. قدر الله. Whether it is good or bad. In red pill or people who are not really connected with Allah and the decree of Allah, they'll think about the outcome always. They'll worry too much about the outcome. And that's why we see a lot of people have a nervous breakdown or maybe seek suicide or really cannot continue life anymore. Why? Because of the shock of the result. Oh, this didn't happen. I was expecting it to happen, it didn't happen. And this is what breaks people.
And that's why I see Islam tying into mental resilience. If you genuinely believe in Allah, you can get through a lot of difficulty in life. Because you're going to accept it as, alright, that's part of my path.
I did what I had to do. It didn't happen. I don't have to cry about it. I accept it. I have sabr, patience.
Also, the concept that I like with different belief systems, whether it's wokeism or red pill, how's that working out for you? If you look at the red pill leaders, if you will, how are their relationships? They're a mess. So why would you choose relationship guidance from someone whose relationships are a mess?
It's a very bad solution.
It's the same with like the wokest types. It's almost comical how unfulfilled they are. Any one of these woke types, where they're in a relationship where it's man and woman are the same and everything's, they're not happy people. It doesn't work.
It's unnatural.
That's the ultimate question to all these modern sort of philosophies or doctrines. How's that working out for you, friend? It's the easiest way to screen them out.
They're liars. If they say it's working out, they're liars. Their life is a mess, just like you said.
And they lack the self-awareness to see how desperately unhappy they are. Absolutely. All right, nice one. Thank you, Sheikh. Okay, so I'd really like to move on to Salat now. I have some specific questions. Why do we raise the finger during prayer? What's that piece about? I haven't read anywhere explaining that.
It's a very interesting question, and it's an important question. We have in acts of worship, we call it in Arabic tawqifiyya. Tawqifiyya means waqf, in stop. Yeah, like stop, waqf. So in acts of worship, we call it tawqifiyya, meaning that acts of worship are performed as the Prophet taught us how it is.
Okay.
Why? We don't know.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. Ablution, wudu, is it an act of worship? Yes. Like, why do I have to worship here? This is not dirty. It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. So no, it's a ritual. Just do it as it is. Why do we bow down? Why do we prostrate? It's just an act of worship that Allah told us how to do it, and we confirm it through authentic narrations. So the Prophet did say, the Prophet did do it, so we do it as it is.
Okay.
So why? The Prophet did it, we do it.
Okay, easy. I can accept that. Understood, thank you. Got it. Now one question, I can't really do it, my feet don't do that, but the one foot down, the other foot sort of up when
Yes.
you're kneeling.
Yes.
Is that so, back in the day, if we were looking, tribal dynamics, you could jump up and use your sword. Like, is that a readiness thing? Like, why do we have one foot up?
Interesting way of...
Because, I mean, you are more ready to jump up than if you had both feet down. Is that somehow tied in?
Same as the previous answer.
That's how it is.
It's just how it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'd like to think it's a warrior thing, it's readiness.
Probably, maybe. Because prayer is not excused during battle, you know that?
Yeah, I've actually seen how to pray on the battlefield. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a special kind of way.
It's very cool. All right, thank you. Now, just a quick one. Astaghfirullah and Revert.
Yeah.
Are they not the same meaning, or what's the difference between
Just different wording. Rabbi ighfirli, O Lord, forgive me. Astaghfirullah, O Allah, I seek forgiveness from you.
Because we use them in different times throughout.
Yes.
Salah.
And also, this is, the Prophet said it, as it is, we say it.
All right, easy.
Yeah.
Understood, thank you. You can tick that one, thank you. Okay, so we've talked about the importance of Arabic language to pray properly. I don't think it's vital. For people who are looking to learn Arabic in order to pray properly, is there a specific resource you'd recommend, or a specific approach?
Wallahi, alhamdulillah, there's a lot of things on the website or online. And the book that you have mentioned, that you are reading, I think that's a great guide. It's been studied and reviewed by a lot of students of knowledge. Alhamdulillah, like I said, online you can find a lot of material. I think most of them will be sufficient.
One I really like on Instagram is learning Arabic sentence by sentence. Do you know that chap? He breaks it down sentence by sentence really well.
Who's that?
His name's Mohammed, and basically his whole thing is learning Arabic sentence by sentence.
Nice.
And he has both the religious and the day-to-day on Instagram. So that's really, I find that really useful.
It's nice to get involved into such material. I think slowly you'll pick up the language and just get familiar with it.
Okay, cool. It's not Spanish though. You're not going to learn it over a few weeks in Mexico.
But I just want to point out something. Learning Arabic for the sake of Allah and to establish your religion, every word that you learn, you're going to be rewarded for it.
Oh really?
You're getting closer to Allah with these things. So if you fix your intention that I'm doing it for the sake of Allah and I want to practice my religion better, learn an act of worship by itself.
What a fantastic motivation. I like that.
Absolutely, man.
Alright, so I've got an interesting one. It's a bit personal. So whenever I pray, I've got my book that I take in, this lovely little book.
Yes.
At the end of the prayer, I give thanks for everything that I've got. I'll ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect those I care about. Oh, we're going to have to pause shortly. And then I ask that all those who are suffering find peace in their hearts, probably through Islam. I give thanks for my brothers and their well-being and pray for them. And then I just sit for a while. I have a sensation of being at home. And having been out of Australia for 15 years, I miss that feeling of being home. I crave to go back to Australia, be around the nature, these sorts of things. I get that exact same sensation in the masjid as if I'm home. Is that something you've seen other Muslims talk about? Or is that a concept, is that a thing?
Yeah, because, basically when you pray and you remember Allah, you're feeding your soul. This is a natural thing that people need. And this is what
it's true, you are boosting your insides. I feel it.
You feel good. I sometimes I even get goosebumps when I'm just praying, and it's just like that exciting feeling. I don't know, it's just a feeling that's you're fulfilling your existence, your purpose in life. Yeah. And definitely you're gonna feel good about it. Even when we're fasting and you break your fast, you feel joy, not because of the food. You just like, man, I just fulfilled a very good act of worship for the sake of Allah. Yes, you were hungry, and now you eat, and you just feel so good about it.
It's a satisfaction of knowing you're living on Surat al-Mustaqim, you're living on the straight path.
Allah did not make this a high standard, rewarding standard for nothing. You feel good about it. Awesome. And it's related,
Nice. And that emotional element is a nice bonus. I didn't come to Islam for emotional reasons. It was logical, it was very much a conscious decision over many years. But the emotional beauty, it's like, I heard that analogy of jumping into the river. I really, going to the masjid praying, I feel like I am jumping into a river of calmness, and then I come back out into Dunya with more energy. It's a life, I don't want to cheapen anything, but that's a life hack. Like it gives it, again, don't say anything disrespectful, but it gives you so much more energy to deal with, the physical world.
The Prophet used to do that. Anytime he's tired, he's stressed, there's a problem, he goes for prayer. Just switches off, comes back.
I love it. I love that we can do the exact same thing all these years later. It's quite powerful. Thank you. I've got questions about relationships in Islam and the modern world. Should we pause and do a part 2, or should we pray and come back? How's your energy levels, man? How's your schedule?
I'm good, man. I got a lot of caffeine in my system.
Okay, all right. Well, let's crack on. Pause, pray, come back. Okay. That works. Okay, so let's talk about relationships. So I've seen from talking to a lot of my Muslim brothers, specifically men, I understand the importance of getting married early. I think it's an important thing to do, so you don't get caught up in temptation, all these sorts of things. But if you've grown up in the West, there's that blue pill conditioning everywhere. So the idea of blue pill is it trains you away from being masculine, it trains you away from traditional values, and also there's the feminine piece, so women aren't necessarily there to help a man, they're there to compete with a man. If you're in the West and you're a Muslim and you don't necessarily have a lot of experience as a man, going into a relationship with that still Western programming that you're around, a lot of the time the relationship dynamic will be a bit tricky. Does that make sense? If you're in a modern society and you're trying to live a traditional relationship. So I see a real lack of guidance for young Muslim men in the West who want to get married. And a lot of the time they're going in without much experience, and as a general rule, unfortunately things don't really work out. If you go into marriage with the Western programming about how relationships should be, that relationship will be a mess. So what would you say to young Muslim men, because I see the hunger for that, for them to be aware of in going into relationships, specifically in the West?
Like you said, you need to establish your masculinity in order for you to have a good, successful marriage. And when you seek marriage, don't seek it on Western standards. A lot of people get into a relationship or a marriage. Well, before that, they have a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. Sorry to say, a test drive. Oh, I want to test the relationship with her. We want to live together. No, khalas, you failed already. You failed already. This is not how you approach marriage. You approach marriage through traditional values, through the halal approach, where you go and seek it from her parents, from her guardian. You don't go to her, because when you go to her, the shaitan is with you, and you're gonna get things mixed up.
Desire, right?
Absolutely. The Prophet said it.
Especially as a young man, you're driven by your hormones.
You're not gonna control yourself. The Prophet said the greatest fitna I left for men, women. It is fitna for them.
What's that? I didn't know that point. That's amazing.
He said
it's so true.
It is. You can see it. I don't want to say anything, but and he said it actually destroyed the nations before you. Fitna of women destroyed the nations before you. Be wary of that, brothers. And that's why, sorry to say, the West is using women. Using women in every possible way. I have a master's in strategic marketing, and they tell us this. You want to sell something? Put a woman. Put a half-naked woman, whatever it is. Tractors.
Sex sells.
Yeah, that's it. Men are just going to swarm you. And so we have to be aware of that. We have to, and the sisters, be aware of that. Don't get caught up in all this. Wear your hijab properly. Be a good Muslim woman, and don't destroy the nation. Don't destroy your brothers.
I see the allure of feminism and the girl power movement. You can do nothing as per this girl power feminism stuff. You can be rude, you can be lazy, but hey, you're a woman, so you're amazing. I see the allure of that. Imagine if I could wake up and not do anything and just be amazing. Where do I sign up? Feminism I think that's how shaitan gets in the head of women, because it's very seductive, the whole feminist girl power movement.
Absolutely. So we have to be aware of that. Like I said, first set up the standards, the Islamic standard, whether you're a woman or a man, and then get married. Don't get married and say, well, I will get married to apply my standard to Islamic standards. You failed already. And that's why we see a lot of divorce, the divorce rate in Muslim countries are higher now. Why? Because of that. Because they are marrying based on Western standards.
Okay. And I saw some guidance in there as well to the young men out there to get your masculinity right. That means getting a certain amount of money.
It's not a democracy.
Building a mindset where you can lead a family.
Yes.
I think
you're the authority. So build that authority with money, with authority, with personality, with everything, with responsibility. Don't think, oh, we're together and no. There's one captain in the ship.
I like that. Excellent. Alhamdulillah. I like that. Shall we?
Yes.
Okay,
Let's go
can we
for it.
pause? Okay.
Can I publicize that?
Please, mate, please.
Yeah.
Hello. It's good fun. Okay. We on?
Yeah.
Fantastic. What do you reckon, Sheikh?
Lovely.
I have to give a shout out to Al Wajaha Tailors. Incredible service, incredible quality. I took every green colour that they have, naturally. Okay, fantastic. So,
Incredible help.
appreciate that. So we were talking about relationships, and we can continue with that, and then we can ask some modern day Islam in the modern world questions. One question I've always wondered is, what if your wife has a different faith as a revert, and she's very strong in that faith? And also, as a sort of secondary question, when is it, appropriate, or what's the guidance in terms of talking to children? At what age is it appropriate to talk to them about Islam and about faith?
With regards to your wife, as you know, alhamdulillah, we are allowed as men to marry women of different faiths, but in specific Jews and Christians.
People of the book.
People of the book, people of the scriptures, we are allowed to marry them if they are chaste and modest, then it is fine. As a matter of fact, even if she is Muslim, but she is not a very modest girl, been around, and that's not advisable, of course. But technically speaking, it's not like your marriage is nullified, but it's not advisable.
I mean, even without religion, it's not advisable, right?
Exactly, it's going to cause trouble for you and for yourself, of course.
The statistics show if a woman has been up with over 10 sexual partners, her chance of a long marriage is decreased massively. Like, there are actual statistics there, so it's real.
In Islam, we don't need these statistics. You told us already, so we go with that.
I like it.
But yes, that's a supplement to support our argument.
Okay, nice. I like that frame. I like that frame.
With regards to children, alhamdulillah, there are levels and depth of Islam that you can present. You're a relatively new Muslim. There is a package for you. There is people who are seekers of knowledge. There is a package for them to go really deep into the all details of Islam, and also for children. The Prophet ﷺ, at his time, when the revelation happened, there were children around him, and he taught them Islam, but he didn't give them the in-depth, all the other details about Islam, but he gave them the concept of it. What is the core of Islam? Tawheed. Allah is watching you. If you want to seek help, seek from Allah. Ibn Abbas, his cousin, was a young man, and he taught him things. He taught him about Islam in that manner. Be mindful of Allah, and Allah will protect you. Fear Allah. You know that Allah is watching you, and this is what I teach my kids too.
My kids message me right now. The only notification I get is my kids. Isn't that interesting? As we talk about children.
There you go. And something very important, I think you have to emphasize as a Muslim for your kids today, because we mentioned this before, they're out to get our kids. You have to teach your kids this. I had a personal encounter with my little girl. I'm here in the UAE, I've never lived outside. My little girl comes and tells me something that is very discreet but very concerning. She said, "Can I color my hair rainbow?" Yeah, there you go. Oh, there's a red flag. What do you mean by rainbow? Where did you get that? So I started just asking her in a nice way, what do you mean by rainbow? What do you think of this? She said, "Baba, there's this boy who colors rainbow and he's a girl." And so I understood that there is some kind of message. They're trying to indoctrinate my kids in a way. And so I tell you, Muslims, you have to tell them that this is wrong in a nice way. How? Don't just tell them haram, haram, haram. No. Explain to them, Allah created us as man and woman. If you want to change, that means we don't like what Allah gave us. Meaning that,
I like that.
yeah. So you have to explain it to them, simplify it into their level. We are human, you are girl, you like the dresses. If you become like a man, then who's going to take your role? Allah created you as a girl, you have to be happy of that, you have to be happy.
Things get confusing.
Exactly, so I think you have to put a barrier between Muslim and non-Muslim. Today there's a mixture of this tolerance, even in gender and even in belief. And we have a very, very important concept for reverts and for the Muslims to understand, which is wala wa bara. Wala wa bara. Association and disassociation. Association with the people of good, association with the Muslim, and disassociation religiously with the people of disbelief. And in the Quran, it's filled with that. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدُ مَا عَبَدتُّمْ I don't worship what you worship, and you don't worship what I worship. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ. Surah Al-Kafirun, it's a very short surah. Tells you about that, yeah. Disassociate from them. But that doesn't mean we don't work with them, we are not kind to them. No, we are kind to them. The Prophet ﷺ was very kind to the non-Muslims. His neighbor was a Jew. He was dying, he rushed to his house. And he came and gave him shahada. Say shahada before you die. If he was hateful because of who he is, he wouldn't go to his house. Let him die. Let him die as a non-Muslim. He'll burn in hell or whatever. No, he rushed to him and he wanted to help him. And so we have to have that distinction. Religiously, we distinguish ourselves from non-Muslims. But we are kind to them. As a matter of fact, Islam came to call people to Islam. How are you going to call people to Islam if you disassociate completely from other non-Muslims? That's not going to work. Your religion is going to go extinct. Yeah, it's an expanding religion.
Very, very much so.
Yeah. So teach your kids that you are Muslim and they are non-Muslim. And when that happens in celebrations, Christmas, things like that. Baba, we want to do Christmas. No, hold on, you're a Muslim. You can't do Christmas. And alhamdulillah, kids today, they understand these concepts. You're a Muslim, you cannot do Christmas. We have Eid, we have Ramadan, we have this. So do that stuff.
I like it. Makes sense. And it's interesting, tying into that, even before I found Islam, I made it very clear to my kids that there are various, shall we say, entities or various bodies out there that want to influence the way you think.
Yeah.
And you must be very conscious of that, because the way they are trying to get you to think isn't necessarily in your best interests. So even at an early age, my kids would come to me and say, hey Dad, I saw this on Netflix. For example, my son would say, I see there's a girl power section on Netflix, but there's no boy power. Why is that, Dad? And I just say, why do you think so? And he would talk through what he sees happening. As long as your children understand at a fairly early age that there are shaitan, even if you're not going to call it that.
Yes.
There are forces trying to get you to think a certain way which won't lead to you being fulfilled, and they can be aware of that, and they can sort of guard themselves against that mentally. I think that's an important role of a parent nowadays.
And teach your kids, your boy, to be masculine, to be responsible, to all this stuff.
And role model, I think that's most powerful.
Yes,
role model.
definitely.
Role model to your son, the sort of man he should seek to become. Role model to your daughter, the sort of husband she should seek to find.
Absolutely.
That's my approach.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that also. Now, I have a question which is interesting. So, at the moment in the West, as I understand it, you can chop something off. You can do like there's no.
You can chop something.
I mean, as per this month, there's
the private parts.
Yeah, I mean that's legal in the West, right? You can disfigure yourself. Of course, if a man wants to identify as a woman, he is legally allowed to disfigure himself and take hormones. And even you see it being pushed on people who are still teenagers. You see this stuff.
They encourage them to do that.
That is legal. However, as I understand it, in somewhere like the UK, a Muslim family cannot have two wives. How is that a thing? How do they justify that? Kids can chop themselves up, irreversible damage, yet a Muslim man can't have, or a Muslim family can't involve one man and multiple wives. How is that a thing?
Even in some countries, you can't even wear the hijab properly. If you wear a niqab, that's not allowed, of course.
But I thought the West is meant to be tolerant. What's happening there?
See, subhanAllah, one of my sheikhs wrapped it up all in one statement. He said all the wars and battles and conflict in the world throughout history is ideological. All of it is ideological. Don't think there is democracy or this or freedom. There's no such thing as freedom. There is no such thing as individualism. Everybody's out there to control you. Everybody is out there to control.
That's the game, especially now, fifth generation warfare, the war of ideas. That's what we see. It's all silos. It's all controlled.
We call it in Arabic aqidah. This is a war of aqidah, ideology or doctrine. But Islam comes to free you from all this. Don't be a slave to individualism. Don't be a slave of your sexuality. Don't be a slave of money. Don't be a slave of anything. This is oneness of Allah, basically. You free yourself from all this slavery.
I see so many hypocrisies in wokeism and in the West, especially, well, not especially, but also in regards to Islam. You can accept somebody chopping their body parts up before they're even legally an adult. But you're saying now that if a woman chooses to wear niqab, she can't.
She can't in some countries, definitely. That's
mind-bending.
Yeah.
I don't know how they justify that.
How is that logical or fair or anything like that?
It's strange.
It conflicts with what they are calling for. which is democracy or freedom or
Tolerance.
individualism and tolerance. Yeah. You can look like a dog and dress like a dog, but you can't be modest and cover your body up. I don't know how that sits well in someone's mind.
I think anyone who can should leave the West, and anyone who can't should work towards being able to leave the West. It's increasingly more polarized, more what the Tates would call a failed society. I think it's a mess. It really is.
I met a guy last month. He's from a country, I don't want to mention the country, but he migrated. He's mashallah he's well off. He has a lot of money, alhamdulillah. And he migrated from a Western country to UAE, and he came to the center, Islamic Information Center. And he converted, just accepted Islam. I said, well, what happened? What's the reason? He said, the moment I saw women walking around with beards proudly in my country and calling it freedom, I said, that's it. I'm not staying here anymore. I'm converting to Islam, I'm migrating. SubhanAllah, these little things, man, it hits you so hard, you realize in what mess you are in.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they hit that sort of the final straw where they can't take any more. And one of Tate's final straws was seeing religious figures in other religions identifying as trans or as all these different things.
Yeah, that's so evil, man.
I mean, if you want to stay on the straight path and you have certain temptations or urges, I mean, we all do. It doesn't mean you publicize it, right? It doesn't mean, and for then religious bodies to accept that and normalize it.
That's hypocrisy.
And again, I think we come down to the fact that Islam is the only answer. Over time, which religion are you going to bet on that will still be practiced in the same way in 100 years? I've made my bet. It's very clear to me.
And unfortunately, there are...
Sorry, betting is haram, right?
Betting is haram.
I'll use a different expression. If you were going to choose and I've made my choice.
One-sided is fine.
Okay.
But it's interesting that the West is also trying to try that with Islam. So they have some small groups of Muslims who are trying to emphasize that or trying to inject that into Islam. But it's failed. Yeah, it's failed. It's nobody.
That's not going to work.
Like trans Muslim hijabi women or whatever, and they have a group of people and they have that, and it's just failing. All Muslims are rejecting it. It's not something that is going to go forward.
I didn't know that was happening within Alpha. That's wild. There's nothing sacred.
They're trying, but they will fail. Deen Allah mahfuz. This is a preserved religion. It's not going to be changed.
Fantastic, nice. Okay, so one thing I'd like to discuss is the concept of success in Islam. Now, I've gotten some criticism about the fact that I have a lot of, Instagram's Instagram. I'm not going to talk about the deep parts of my life or my faith that much on Instagram. I'm going to show cars and holidays. That's what Instagram's about. But I have received criticism, and I can understand it. Why you're showing off all this flashiness. Now, my intent, my niyyah is such that I came from very humble beginnings, and I want to show others what's possible as well. Get the right brothers around you, find a skill that is useful to society, just work harder than everyone else. Yeah. If inshallah, you'll find success in this world, right? My intent is to show others that it is possible to inspire. Also to have fun. I bring in a lot of other experts, specialists, artists. I like to promote the people I work with. Yeah. But I have received criticism from Muslims saying, you won't be able to take that with you to Jannah. And I know, I'm not attached to the material possessions. I in no way worship any of this. I still enjoy my success, and I enjoy the fact that I've worked so hard over numerous decades that I can give very generously, and I can support and mentor, and I take zakat very seriously. What's the Islamic perspective on, first of all, success? Because I understand there are various figures who are very successful, but also in terms of showing off. Like, if you're not attached to it, should you still not show off success on social media? Like, if you could talk about that?
Like you said, there's a lot of figures, especially the companions. As a matter of fact, this is a misconception. They used to say that the Prophet ﷺ was poor. Maybe we've discussed this earlier. And the Prophet was poor at some stages, and he was very rich at some stages. Abu Bakr was rich. Abdurrahman ibn Auf was rich. Entrepreneurs. Uthman was rich. Ibn Affan, the third Khalifa. These were very pious people, men of worship and piety and all that, but they were also very rich people in their society. That's one thing, that yes, you can be rich and very pious and very devout to Allah. Now, what you're saying is that showing it to the people, to publicly present it to the people, there's two sides of this. You're showing it to really show off and clout, attention seeking. That's not allowed. Not allowed as in, Muslims should not be doing that. Muslims should
vanity based.
Yeah, humble down, really, not show off these things. Now, another part is what you are talking about is that I'm showing it to encourage people. Encourage people to do what I'm doing or to take that line that I'm a Muslim and I'm also successful in life. I have an education, I read, I do sports, I do this, and I think we need that. We need it to some extent. I cannot say to fully, because like you said, some people might miss the message that you're giving. I know the message, I know you personally, and I follow you. And I can see it clearly that what you're trying to do is something that is good. Some people might miss the message, maybe I don't know, they misunderstand what you're trying to say. But it is important. Why? Because today Muslim young or Muslim youth, they're lost. And they are stuck between, oh, if I'm going to be a devout Muslim, I have to give up life. This is wrong. We have a good Muslim, Revert, who had everything and reverted to Islam and accepted the oneness of Allah and Tawheed and all that. But he's still having all this stuff. He didn't give up everything. And I think this is a good message for non-Muslims and a good message for young Muslims to be successful in life, to take responsibility, as you said, and to be practicing Muslims. But like I said, exaggeration in that is, we should be careful with that.
Yeah. So have the right niyya, the right intent.
As a matter of fact, some of the ulama, they said that sometimes it is good for prominent people who are, figures in society to show that they're giving zakat. Like Sheikh Hammadi, have you seen his initiative, the 1 billion meals? Yeah. Is he showing off? No. The message is, guys, come on, chip in, help. There are needy people who need help. I want you to help and participate.
It's leadership. Really.
Exactly. Yeah. But the catch is intention.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
I love that. Even before I reverted, I realized through human experience that the underlying intention with which you approach a task massively determines the outcome.
Absolutely.
Should you not show your fitness, all these sorts of results? Yeah. What would you say to people who want to be good Muslims but also want to build a following, for example, to spread a certain message or to market certain products on social media?
I think there's two aspects to this. The first one is that we Muslims believe that there can be envy, and envy can hurt you. Envy can hurt you. We call it evil eye.
Yeah,
SubhanAllah, some of the ulama, they said it is a force that comes from the soul that hits you, and it damages you, maybe your results, your success, and it can happen. The Prophet ﷺ told us this, and there's the last surah talks about this. قل أعوذ برب الناس وملك الناس من شر قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب من شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. We seek refuge to Allah from the hasad, from the vice or the envy that people have. And so it is real and it is evil. And so we have to consider that when we show off our success or our blessings, especially kids.
Yeah.
There are people out there who can't have kids and they are dying to have kids. There are people out there who are dying to have a good body or anything like that. So we have to be careful what we show, especially things that we greatly value our kids.
Yeah. I'm very careful not to show kids too much. That's something even on a personal note I don't like doing. Because you get a lot of hate when you're out there. It's the internet, right?
Yeah, exactly. So be careful of that. I had several encounters on this. Wallahi, one day I posted on Instagram, I'm doing a new weightlifting program, and I just posted that on my story. I'm a pretty active guy, and I've never had any problem with my spine. That moment when I went to the gym and I did the first deadlift, I felt numbness on my right. I went to the doctor and he said, "Yeah, did you have an accident? You looks fit. Your lifestyle seems okay. Did you have an accident?" I never had an accident. I never had an injury on my neck or my spine. He said, "This is a severe case of herniated disc. You have to go for surgery at once." I said, "Okay, fine. What happened? Do I connect these two together?" There are other instances that one must be careful. I cannot say confirm that this is because of evil eye, but it is possible. So one should be careful. As for now, wives, he said. Now, as you know, in Islam, women should be covered, bodily and public. That's why in Islam, women are not obligated to go for Friday prayer. Women are not obligated to go to masjid. Women are better off praying at home. Why? Because this is a hijab. Hijab is what? Veil, covering. And a woman should be covered. Whether it is in her home, whether in her body. If she goes, she covers. As a matter of fact, some ulama, this is a qawl, they say a woman should not leave the house only for necessity.
Really?
Yeah, cannot leave the house. And if she leaves the house, she has to have the permission of her husband.
Oh, you're not allowed to say that in the West, you get in trouble.
No, you get you get vacated now. If you say that in the West.
Isn't that interesting? It really is a clash of cultures and beliefs in many ways.
So this is something that we need to consider.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
And nowadays we see Muslims, Muslim women. They're going on social media. I'm sorry to say this, but they're going on social media thinking, I'm wearing a hijab, but I'm on social media. No, sister. Be careful. Even if you're in your hijab, don't be on social media. This is not a platform for women. Men look at you differently, and I guarantee you 100%, if you ask these female figures who are on social media, whether they are in their hijab or not, they're getting harassed.
Oh, for sure. That is the, look, I won't use the expression, but the phone becomes a bag full of... It's true, as soon as you're a woman on social media, that's real. Any sort of...
Fitna, you're a fitna, don't do that. And by the way, when I say women are fitna, or the hadith, the Prophet said, you are fitna to men. You're not evil, but Allah created the system. You are attracting men, whether you like it or not. There are men attracted to you. This is in our animalistic instinct.
The idea that you can somehow change that in men is farcical. Like it's deep-seated. And of course a man should be responsible in terms of managing himself. But unfortunately, you cannot click your fingers and make every man around the world responsible. That's something the leftists don't quite get that. You know what I mean?
You are responsible, and the female is responsible. You don't look, lower your gaze, and female, please cover.
Yeah.
So
in an ideal world, that's how it would be. But unfortunately, there's a lot of men who don't have that sort of self-control out there. That is the nature of the world we live in. The realism with which the leftists don't want to accept. All right. Thank you, that makes a lot of sense. So, my approach is I'll show on social media that which I don't mind losing. Take the watches, no, serious, but I won't show the family because that's something that I can't. Yeah, exactly. I'm not attached to any of the toys, so I'll show them. It's all good. Fantastic. Okay, that's the key questions that I have, brother. Do you have any questions or talking points that you'd like to discuss?
I have one thing that's a bit maybe controversial, but I just want to put it out there for the reverts, because I know the journey of Islam is something that can be tough, can be challenging, maybe can be ambiguous sometimes. You'll find some conflicting things, and maybe you came across such things, conflicting ideas. You'll find some Muslims saying something and then other
that a lot. Yeah. A lot of people, and I'm grateful for the guidance, but some people will say one thing and other people say other, and everyone's sure about it. Like everyone's sure their guidance is the right guidance.
Yes. So I think that my first advice to reverts is that you stick to official, authentic, reliable sources when you want Islam. Don't just go to any random influencer in Islam just because he has a lot of followers and he says something very, very articulate or very kind of a cool way, very skillful in using words. You think this guy knows what he's talking about, especially in Islam, because as you know, Islam is a very powerful force. People can misuse it, and it has been done before. We talked about sects, political sects before, and we've seen how they misuse Islam to drive or misguide nations. And the Prophet, subhanAllah, 1444 years ago said that the ummah of Islam will divide. Some of them will be misguided. And he gave a number, said 72 sects of my ummah will be misguided. Only one will be on the right path. Yes, and he said the ones who are following me and the Sahaba, the companions, because they are the ones who applied Islam correctly. Because they were the closest to the revelation. They got everything from the Prophet. And so we have to understand this concept, and we have to be wary of it, that not every Muslim is by default a good person. No, what are you preaching? What are you saying? Are you giving misguidance or guidance? And how do we identify misguidance and guidance? If, I'm being very practical here, very simplistic, simple terms. If you see someone who is very focused on political aspects and matters, country, politics, all that, this is not a person you take Islam from. Okay. Islam is about you worshipping Allah. Politics and all that, yes, it is involved in Islam, no doubt. Islam is a guide to life. It has sayings and everything, even in politics. Even you going to the bathroom, there is Islam to be applied there. You know this. Yeah, there's etiquettes there. So yes, but you focusing on this and making this a persona or making this a theme, this is a red flag. Talking about governments, this is not our business. As you know, governments and all that, you try to change them, they will change you and what's around you. So what Islam's approach to such things, whether it is government, whether it's things we don't agree in the world, you start from the bottom. You change the people. Teach people Tawheed, teach people about Islam, how to worship Allah, how to do all these things. This is what the Prophet did. When the Prophet came with the revelation, did he go and try to fight because he lived in a disbelieving society, which is Mecca. Mecca was a non-Muslim country, basically saying. He didn't go and clash. No, he presented the good, and who followed him? The slaves, the small people, and also the chiefs. Abu Bakr was a sayyid, was a person of important figure in Mecca. But he didn't clash with anyone. He didn't clash. He didn't go in politics and protests and all that stuff. So we have to be very careful of that. Stick to the big, authentic, official scholars. This is what reverts need to understand. Alhamdulillah, you are with us in the Islamic Information Center. We are not a secret body or a cult or anything like that. We have a permit from the government. We are doing da'wah. We don't want to present a lot of our results because some things should be kept behind closed doors. But there's a lot of khair, there's a lot of da'wah, there's a lot of things that are happening, a lot of reverts in Dubai. I think you see that, alhamdulillah, we are surrounded by reverts now. But people have to be wary of that. In any case, like I said, stick to the official, authentic ones. Don't get into controversial issues, political issues, because that's not our goal in life.
Makes sense.
Maybe we can have another podcast on that because that's a big issue.
For me, I've done a lot of YouTube stuff and podcasts lately to support the Tate brothers and I mean, it's my duty, right? They're my brother, and also I've been around them. I know the truth.
Yes.
Truth be told, I don't really have much love for being out there. I mean, look, I'll have fun on Instagram, but I don't really need to be. I have no intent to be a YouTuber. But when it comes to talking about our faith, I'll talk for hours. I absolutely love it, and it's not work. You know, going on some random podcast is work. This is enjoyable. This is satisfying. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And again, I'm very blessed to even have the opportunity to talk to you. So thank you. And the one thing I'd like to say to everyone who supported me, there's so many people that have sent gifts and guidance. What a wonderful welcome to Islam. I couldn't ask for anything more. Like there's so much support, so much understanding. I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. You know, I've misinterpreted things. And there's so much to learn. It's like, am I ever going to really get a handle on all the reading to be done? But man, the Ummah has been so supportive. The brotherhood is real. The understanding that, no, you get there, just, you know, watch out for this, go this way. It's a beautiful thing. And you're a part of that, so thank you. I really appreciate it.
It's an honor. I was really happy. SubhanAllah, sometimes, you know, I think to myself, I'm making these videos, maybe I should stop, maybe it's not really that useful, maybe I'm doing this.
Your videos are great, man. They're based.
SubhanAllah. Then you come, you know, and you give me that beautiful, encouraging message. I say, wow, man, I'm doing something good in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Wallahi, 10 years, maybe more than 10 years ago, I used to do dua. I used to say, oh Allah, make me useful in Islam. Wallahi, at that point, I kid you not, and I'm not exaggerating, I couldn't read the Quran. I wasn't a very good practicing Muslim.
Oh, wow.
But subhanAllah, I used to do that dua constantly. Make me useful in Islam. One thing led to another. I don't know how it happened. Wallahi, I don't know how it happened. I never seen it. Just my friend said, you know, you speak English, why don't you just talk about Islam in English? And one day I just did it in the car, and boom.
Yeah,
you know?
SubhanAllah.
SubhanAllah.
Well, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
It's good fun. Let's do it again soon.
Inshallah, definitely.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, bro. Cheers, guys.